Hare Krishna, my dear devotees, all glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Today we're hearing from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 7, text number 23. And it says, there are two kinds of bodies for every individual soul. A gross body made of 5 gross elements, and a subtle body made of 3 subtle elements. Within these bodies, however, is the spirit soul. One must find the soul by analysis, saying, this is not it. This is not it. Thus, one must separate spirit from matter. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. As previously stated, Swarnam Yata Grav Vasu Hema Kara Shitresu Yogais Tad Abhij Abhij Abhi Abhijana Apu Nuyat. An expert in the study of soil can find out where gold is and then dig there. He can then analyze the stone and test the gold with nitric acid. Similarly, one must analyze the whole body to find within the body the spirit soul. In studying one's own body, one must ask himself whether his head is his soul, his fingers are his soul, his hand is his soul, and so on. In this way, one must gradually reject all the material elements and the combinations of material elements in the body. Then, if one is expert and follows the Acharya, he can understand that he is the spiritual soul living within the body. The greatest Acharya, Krishna, begins his teachings in Bhagavad Gita by saying, Dehinosmin yata dehe komaran yovanam chara tatat dehantara bhaktir Diras tatra namuyate. As the embodied soul continually passes in this body, from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. The self-realized soul is not bewildered by such a change. Bhagavad Gita 2.13. The spirit soul possesses the body and is within the body. This is the real analysis. The soul never mixes with the bodily elements. Although the soul is within the body, it is separate and always pure. One must analyze and understand his self. This is self-realization. Neti is the analytical process of rejecting matter. By expertly conducting such an analysis, one can understand where the soul is. One who is not expert, however, cannot distinguish gold from earth, nor the soul from the body. Text number 24. Sober and expert persons should search for the spirit soul within with minds purified through analytical study in terms of the soul's connection with the distinction from all things that undergo creation, maintenance, and destruction. Let me read that again. Sober and expert persons should search for the spirit soul with minds purified through analytical study in terms of the soul's connection with and distinction from all things that undergo creation, maintenance, and destruction. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta. A sober person can study himself and distinguish the soul from the body by analytical study. For example, when one considers his body, his head, his hands, and so on, one can certainly understand the difference between the spirit soul and the body. No one says, I head. Everyone says, my head. Thus, there are two entities, the head and I. They are not identical, although they appear to be one conglomeration. One may argue, when we analyze the body, we find a head, hand, legs, belly, blood, bone, urine, stool, and so on. But after everything is considered, where is the existence of the soul? A sober man, however, avails himself of this verdict, of this Vedic instruction. Yatova imani bhutani jayante yena jatani jivanti yat prayanti avis samvishanti tad viji janas sas va tad brahminti. Taittiriya Upanishad 3.1.1. Thus, he can understand that the head, hands, legs, and indeed the entire body have grown on the basis of the soul. If the soul is within the body, head, hands, and legs grow, but otherwise they do not. A dead child does not grow up, for the soul is not present. If, by a careful analysis of the body, one still cannot find the existence of the soul, this is due to his ignorance. How can a gross man, fully engaged in materialistic activities, understand the soul, which is a small particle of spirit, 1/10,000th the size of the tip of a hair? Such a person foolishly thinks that the material body has grown from a combination of chemicals, although he cannot find them. The Vedas inform us, however, that chemical combinations do not constitute the living force. The living force is the Atma and Paramatma, and the body grows on the basis of that living force. The fruit of a tree grows and undergoes 6 kinds of change because of the presence of the tree. If there were no tree, there could be no question of the growth and maturity of fruit. Therefore, beyond the existence of the body are the Paramatma and Atma within the body. This is the first understanding of spiritual knowledge, explained in Bhagavad Gita. Dehinosmin yata dehe. The body exists because of the presence of the Supreme Lord, and the jiva, which is part of the Lord. This is further explained by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita 9.4. Maya tatam idam sarvam jagat avyakta murtina matstani sarvabhutani nachaham tesu avastita. By me, in my universe, now unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. The Supreme Soul exists everywhere. The Vedas enjoin Sarvam Klav Idam Brahma. Everything is Brahman, or an expansion of Brahman, of Brahman's energies. Sutre Manigana Iva. Everything rests on the Lord, just like pearls strung together on a thread. The thread is the principal Brahman. He is the supreme cause, the supreme Lord upon whom everything rests. Mata Parataram Nanyat. Thus, we must study the Atma and Paramatma, the individual soul and super soul, upon whom the entire material cosmic manifestation rests. This is explained by the Vedic statement, Yato va imani bhutani jayante, yena chetani jivanti. Text 25. Intelligence can be perceived in three states of activity: wakefulness, dreaming, and deep sleep. The person who perceives these three is to be considered the original master, the ruler, the supreme personality of God. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Without intelligence, one cannot understand the direct activities of the senses, nor can he understand dreaming or the cessation of all gross and subtle activities. The seer and controller is the supreme personality of Godhead, the supreme soul, by whose direction the individual soul can understand when he is awake, when he is sleeping, and when he is completely in trance. In Bhagavad Gita 15.15, the Lord says, Sarvasya chaham vidisaniviso matakspati jnanam apahanam cha. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. The living entities are completely absorbed in the three states of wakefulness: dreaming, deep sleep, through their intelligence. Through their intelligence. I'm sorry. The living entities are completely absorbed in the three states of wakefulness. Okay, absorbed in the three states of one, wakefulness, two, dreaming, and three, deep sleep, through their intelligence. This intelligence is supplied by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who accompanies the individual soul as a friend. Srila Madhvacharya says that the living entity is sometimes described as sattva buddhi when his intelligence acts directly. First, to perceive pain and pleasure above activities. Let me read that again. Srila Madhvacharya says that the living entity is sometimes described as sattva buddhi when his intelligence acts directly to perceive pains and pleasures above activities. There is a dreaming state in which understanding comes from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Matak Smritirgyan Apahanamta. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Super Soul, is the supreme controller, and under his direction, the living entities are sub-controllers. One must understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead with one's intelligence. Text number 26. As one can understand the presence of the air by the aromas it carries, so, under the guidance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can understand the living soul by these three divisions of intelligence. These three divisions, however, are not the soul. They are constituted of the three modes and are born of activities. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. As already explained, there are three states to our existence, namely wakefulness, dreaming, and deep sleep. In all three states, we have different experiences. Thus, the soul is the observer of these three states. Actually, the activities of the body are not the activities of the soul. The soul is different from the body, just as aromas are distinct from the material vehicle in which they are carried. The soul is unattached to material activities. This analysis can be considered by a person who is fully under the shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. This is confirmed by the Vedic injunction, Kasmin Bhagavo Vidyate Sarvam Idam Vigyatam Bhavati. If one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can automatically understand everything else. Because of not taking shelter of the Lord's lotus feet, even great scholars, scientists, philosophers, and religionists are always bewildered. This is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam 10.2.32. Ye ne ravindaksha vimuktamaninas twayi astabhaved avisudha budhaya. Even though one may artificially think himself liberated from material contamination, if he has not taken shelter of the Lord's lotus feet, his intelligence is polluted. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 3.42, Indriyani Parani Ayur. Indriye Vya Indriye Vya Param Mana. Manasastu para budir yo budhe paratas tu sa. Above the senses is the mind. Above the mind is the intelligence. And above the intelligence is the soul. Ultimately, when one's intelligence becomes clear through devotional service, one is situated in Buddhi Yoga. This also is explained in Bhagavad Gita. Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam Yenamam Upayante. When devotional service develops and one's intelligence becomes clear, one can use his intelligence to return home back to Godhead. That's very good. Text 27. Through polluted intelligence, one is subjected to the modes of nature, and thus one is conditioned by material existence. Like a dreaming state in which one falsely suffers, material existence, which is due to ignorance, must be considered unwanted and temporary. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta. The unwanted condition of temporary life is called ignorance. One can very easily understand that the material body is temporary, for it is generated at a certain date and ends at a certain date. After undergoing the 6 kinds of change, namely birth, death, growth, maintenance, transformation. Wait a second. Transformation and dwindling. This condition of the eternal soul is due to his ignorance, and although it is temporary, it is unwanted. Because of ignorance, one is put into temporary bodies one after another. The spirit soul, however, does not need to enter such temporary bodies. He does so only due to his ignorance or his forgetfulness of Krishna. Therefore, in the human form of life, when one's intelligence is developed, one should change his consciousness by trying to understand Krishna. Then one can be liberated. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 4.9, where the Lord says, Janma karma chame divyam, evam yo veti tattvata, tyaktva deham punarjanma naidimam eti sarjan. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. Unless one understands Krishna and comes to Krishna consciousness, one must continue in material bondage. To end this conditional life, one must surrender to the Supreme Personality of God. Indeed, that is demanded by the Supreme Lord. Sarvadharmam parityaja mam ekam saranam vraja. As advised by Maharaja Rishabhadeva, na sadhu manye yata atmano yam asan api klesada asadeha. One must be intelligent enough to understand that although one's body is temporary and will not endure for long as one has a body, he must undergo the pangs of material existence. Therefore, if by good association, by the instructions of a bona fide spiritual master, one takes to Krishna consciousness, his conditional life of material existence is vanquished, and his original consciousness, known as Krishna consciousness, is revived. When one is Krishna conscious, he can realize that the material existence, whether one is awake or dreaming, is nothing but a dream, and has no factual value. This realization is possible by the grace of the Supreme Lord. This grace is also present in the form of the instructions of Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission is for everyone to engage in welfare activity to awaken the foolish living entity, especially in human society, so that he may come to the platform of Krishna consciousness and benefit by liberation from conditional life. In this connection, Srila Madhvacharya cites the following verses. Dukkha rupopi samsaro buddhi purvam avavyate yata swapne siras chedam swayam kritvat mano vasa tato dukkham avapetya peta tata jagarito pitu janan api atmano dukkham avasastu pravartate. One must realize that the material condition of life is full of distresses. One can realize this with purified intelligence. When one's intelligence is purified, he can understand that unwanted temporary material life is just like a dream. Just as one suffers pain when his head is cut off in a dream. In ignorance, one suffers not only while dreaming, but also while awake. Without the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one continues in ignorance and is thus subjected to material distresses in various ways. Text 28. Therefore, my dear friends, O sons of the demons, your duty is to take to Krishna consciousness, which can burn the seed of fruitive activity artificially created by the modes of material nature and stop the flow of the intelligence in wakefulness, dreaming, and deep sleep. In other words, when one takes to Krishna consciousness, his ignorance is immediately dissipated. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 14:26. Mam chayo vipacharena papiyogena sevate savanim sagunam samatitya itam brahmabhuya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service, who does not fall down in any circumstance, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to a level of Brahman. By the practice of bhakti yoga, one immediately comes to the spiritual platform. That's a very important statement. By the practice of bhakti yoga, one immediately comes to the spiritual platform, transcendental to the actions and reactions of the three modes of material nature. The root of ignorance is material consciousness, which must be killed by spiritual consciousness or Krishna consciousness. The word bija niharanam refers to burning the root cause of material life to ashes. In the Medini dictionary, yoga is explained by its result. Yoge purvata samprapto sangati dhyana yuktisu. When one is put into an awkward position because of ignorance. The process by which one can be freed from this entanglement is called yoga. This is also called liberation. Muktir hit vanyata rupam swarupena vyavastiti. Mukti means giving up one's position in ignorance or illusion, by which one thinks in a way contrary to his constitutional position. Returning to one's constitutional position is called mukti, and the process by which one does this is called yoga. Thus, yoga is above karma, jnana, and sankhya. Indeed, yoga is the ultimate goal of life. Krishna therefore advised Arjuna to become a yogi. Tasmat yogi bhavarjuna. Lord Krishna further advised in Bhagavad Gita that the first class yogi is he who has come to the platform of devotional service. Yoginam api sarve samadhyatma Shadavam Bhajate Yogam Samayuktamo Mata. Of all yogis, he who always abides in me with great faith, worshiping me in transcendental loving service, is most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. Bhagavad Gita 6.47. Thus, one who always thinks of Krishna within the core of his heart is the best yogi. By practicing this best of all the yoga systems, one is liberated from the material condition. Text 29. Of the different processes recommended for disentanglement from material life, the one personally explained and accepted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead should be considered all perfect. That process is the performance of duties by which love for the Supreme Lord develops. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Among the linking processes that elevate one from bondage to material contamination, the one recommended by the Supreme Personality of Godhead should be accepted as the best. That process is clearly explained in Bhagavad Gita, where the Lord says, Sarvadharma Prityaja Mamikam Saranam Braja. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. This process is the best because the Lord assures, Aham Tvam Sarvapapi Yo Mokshishami Ma Sucha. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. There is no need to be worried, for the Lord himself assures that he will care for his devotee and save him from the reactions of sinful activities. Material bondage is the result of sinful activity. Therefore, since the Lord assures that he will dissipate the results of fruitive material activities, there is no need to be worried. This process of understanding one's position as a spirit soul and then engaging oneself in devotional service is therefore the best. The entire Vedic program is based on this principle, and one can understand it as recommended in the Vedas. Okay, so there's no need to be worried. This process of understanding one's position as a spirit soul and then engaging oneself in devotional service is therefore the best. The entire Vedic program is based on this principle, and one can understand it as recommended in the Vedas. Okay, so this should be utmost importance. Yasya deve parabhaktir yata deve tata guru tasyaite katitahiya tak prakasante mahatmana. Unto those great souls who have implicit faith in both the Lord and the spiritual master, all the imports of Vedic knowledge are automatically revealed. Sritasvatara Upanishad 6:23. One must accept the pure devotee, the representative of God, as one's guru, and then offer him all the respects one would offer the Supreme Personality of God. This is the secret of success. Okay, this is the secret of success. What is that? One must accept a pure devotee, the representative of God, as one's guru, and then offer him all the respects one would offer the Supreme Personality of God. This is the secret of success. For one who adopts this method, the perfect process is revealed. In this verse, the words Yar Ajans Ar Anjasa Rati indicate that by offering service and surrendering to the spiritual master, one is elevated to devotional service, and by performing devotional service, one gradually becomes attached to the Supreme Personality of God. Because of this attachment to the Lord, one can understand the Lord. In other words, one can understand that the Lord's position is. One can understand what the Lord's position is, what our position is, and what our relationship is. All this can be understood very easily by the simple method of bhakti yoga. As soon as one is situated on a platform of bhakti yoga, the root cause of one's suffering and material bondage is destroyed. This is clearly explained in the next verse, which gives the secret of success. Oh, I love this. I want to know the secret of success. And it says, one must accept the bona fide spiritual master and render service unto him with great devotion and faith. Whatever one has in one's possession should be offered to the spiritual master. And in the association of saintly persons and devotees, one should worship the Lord. Hear the glories of the Lord with faith. Glorify the transcendental qualities and activities of the Lord. Always meditate on the Lord's lotus feet and worship the deity of the Lord strictly, according to the injunctions of the Shastra and Guru. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Now, in the previous verse, it has been said that the process which immediately increases one's love and affection for the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the best of the many thousands of ways to become free from the entanglement of material existence. It is also said, Dharmasya tattvam nihitam guhayam. Actually, the truth of religious principles is extremely confidential. Nonetheless, it can be understood very easily if one actually adopts the principles of religion. And it is said, Dharmam to Sakshat Bhagavat Pranitam. The process of religion is enunciated by the Supreme Lord because he is the supreme authority. This is also indicated in the previous verse by the word Bhagavatodita. The injunctions or directions of the Lord are infallible, and their benefits are fully assured. According to his directions, which are explained in this verse, the perfect form of religion is Bhakti Yoga. To practice Bhakti Yoga, one must first accept a bona fide spiritual master. Srila Rupa Goswami, in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.74 and 75, advises Guru Padashrayas Tasmat Krishna Dikshadi Shikshanam Vishrambena Guru Seva Saduvartman Uvartanam Sad Dharma Pricha Bogadi Tyaga Krishnasya Hetave. One's first duty is to accept a bona fide spiritual master. The student or disciple should be very inquisitive. He should be eager to know the complete truth about the eternal religion. Sanatana Dharma. The words Guru Susrusaya mean that one should personally serve the spiritual master by giving him bodily comforts, helping him in bathing, dressing, sleeping, eating, and so on. This is called Guru Susrusanam. A disciple should serve the spiritual master as a menial servant, and whatever he has in his possession should be dedicated to the spiritual master. Pranayar Artha Diya Vacha. Everyone has his life, his wealth, his intelligence, and his words, and all of them should be offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the via medium of the spiritual master. Everything should be offered to the spiritual master as a matter of duty. But the offering should be made to the spiritual master with heart and soul, not artificially to gain material prestige. This offering is called arpana. Moreover, one should live among devotees, saintly persons, to learn the etiquette and proper behavior of devotional service. Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakur remarks in this connection that whatever is offered to the spiritual master should be offered with love and affection, not for material adoration. Similarly, it is recommended that one associate with devotees, but there must be some discrimination. Actually, a sadhu, a saintly person, must be saintly in his behavior. Sadhava sad achara. Unless one adheres to the standard behavior, one's position as a sadhu, a saintly person, is not complete. Therefore, a Vaishnava, a sadhu, must completely adhere to the standard of behavior. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that a Vaishnava, a person initiated into the Vaishnava cult, should be offered the respect befitting a Vaishnava, which means that he should be offered service and prayers. However, one should not associate with him if he is not a fit person with whom to associate. Text 32. One should always remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his localized representation as the Paramatma, who is situated in the core of every living entity's heart. Thus, one should offer respect to every living entity according to that living entity's position or manifestation. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Hari sarve subhute su. This statement is sometimes misunderstood by unscrupulous persons who wrongly conclude that because Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is situated in every living entity, every living entity is therefore Hari. That's a very wrong conclusion. Such foolish persons do not distinguish between the Atma and the Paramatma, who are situated in every body. The Atma is the living entity, and the Paramatma is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The individual living entity, however, is different from the Paramatma, the Supersoul. Therefore, Hari Sarvesu Bhutesu means that Hari is situated in Paramatma, not as Atma, although Atma is a part of Paramatma. Offering respect to every living entity means offering respect to the Paramatma situated in every living entity. One should not misunderstand every living entity to be the Paramatma. Sometimes unscrupulous persons designate a living entity as Daridra Narayana, Swami Narayana, this Narayana or that Narayana. One should clearly understand that although Narayana is situated in the core of the heart of every living entity, the living entity never becomes Narayana. Very, very important knowledge. Okay, text. Number 33. By these activities, as mentioned above, one is able to cut down the influence of the enemies, namely lust, anger, greed, illusion, madness, and jealousy. Ooh, that's the worst. And when this and when thus situated, one can render service to the Lord. In this way, one surely attains the platform of loving service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. As mentioned in verses 33, as mentioned in verses 30 and 31, one's first duty is to approach the spiritual master, the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to begin rendering service to him. Prahlada Maharaja proposed that from the very beginning of life, Ko Maran Acharit Rajna, a small child should be trained to serve the spiritual master while living at the Gurukula. Brahmachari Gurukule Vasan Tanto Gurur Hitam. Bhagavatam 7.12.1. This is the beginning of spiritual life. Guru Prasada, Guru Gurdasraya, Sadhu Vartmanu Vartanam, Sadharma Pricha, by following the instructions of the Guru and the Shastras. The disciple attains the stage of devotional service and becomes unattached to possessions. Whatever he possesses, he offers to the spiritual master, the Guru, who engages him in Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, hearing and reciting the transcendental knowledge. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu. The disciple follows strictly and in this way learns how to control his senses. Then, excuse me, then by using his pure intelligence, he gradually becomes a lover of the Supreme Personality of God, as confirmed by Srila Rupa Goswami. Adho Shraddha Tata Sadhu Sangha. In this way, one's life becomes perfect, and his attachment for Krishna consciousness positively manifested, becomes positively manifested. In that stage, he is situated in ecstasy, experiencing bhava and anubhava as explained in the following verse. 1 second. Text 34, Nisamya Karmani Gunan Atulan Viryani Lila Tanubhi Kritani Yadati Har So Full Akstra Ru Gad Gadam Prot Kanta Udayati Ruti Nitya. One who is situated in devotional service is certainly the controller of his senses, and thus he is a liberated person. When such a liberated person, the pure devotee, hears of the transcendental qualities and activities of the Lord's incarnations for the performance of various pastimes, his hair stands on end on his body. Tears fall from his eyes, and in his spiritual realization, his voice falters. Sometimes he very openly dances. Sometimes he sings loudly, and sometimes he cries. Thus, he expresses his transcendental jubilation. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The Lord's activities are uncommon. For example, when he appears as Lord Ramachandra, he performed uncommon activities like bridging the ocean. Similarly, when Lord Krishna appeared, he raised the Govardhana hill when he was only 7 years of age. These are the uncommon activities. Fools and rascals who are not in the transcendental position consider these uncommon activities of the Lord to be mythological. But when the pure devotee, the liberated person, hears about these uncommon activities of the Lord, he immediately becomes ecstatic and exhibits the symptoms of chanting, dancing, and crying very loudly and jubilantly. This is the difference between a devotee and a non devotee. Oh boy, wonderful statement. Text 35. When a devotee becomes like a person haunted by a ghost, he laughs and very loudly chants about the qualities of the Lord. Sometimes he sits to perform meditation, and he offers respects to every living entity, considering him a devotee of the Lord. Constantly breathing very heavily, he becomes careless of social etiquette and loudly chants like a madman, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, O my Lord, O Master of the universe. Purport. When one chants the holy name of the Lord in ecstasy, not caring for outward social conventions, it is to be understood that he is Atma Mati. In other words, his consciousness is turned toward the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 36. The devotee is then freed from all material contamination because he constantly thinks of the Lord's pastimes and because his mind and body have been converted to spiritual qualities because of his intense devotional service. His ignorance, material consciousness, and all kinds of material desires are completely burnt to ashes. This is the stage at which one can achieve the shelter of the Lord's lotus feet. This is a very nice verse. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. When a devotee is completely purified, he becomes Anya Bilasita Sunya. In other words, all of his material desires become zero, being burnt to ashes, and he exists either as the Lord's servant, friend, father, mother, or conjugal lover. Because one thinks constantly in this way, one presents material, one's present material body and mind are fully spiritualized, and the needs of one's material body completely vanish from one's existence. An iron rod put into fire becomes warmer and warmer, and when it is red hot, it is no longer an iron rod, but fire. Similarly, when a devotee constantly engages in devotional service and thinks of the Lord in his original Krishna consciousness, he no longer has any material activities, for his body is spiritualized. Advancement in Krishna consciousness is very powerful, and therefore, even during this life, such a devotee has achieved the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. This transcendental ecstatic existence of a devotee was completely exhibited by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In this regard, Srila Madhvacharya writes as follows: Tad Bhava Bhava Tad Yatha Swarupam Bhakti Kichit Bhakta Vinir Vinir Yanti Gayanti Cha Yate Sitam Kechit Tusnim Japati Eva Kechit Sobaya Karina. The ecstatic condition of devotional service was completely exhibited by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. who sometimes danced, sometimes cried, sometimes sang, sometimes remained silent, and sometimes chanted the holy name of the Lord. That is perfect spiritual existence. Text 37. The real problem of life is the repetition of birth and death, which is like a wheel rolling repeatedly up and down. This wheel, however, completely stops when one is in touch with the Supreme Personality of God. In other words, by the transcendental bliss realized from the constant engagement in devotional service, one is completely liberated from material existence. All learned men know this. Therefore, my dear friend, O sons of Yasuras, immediately began meditating upon and worshiping the super soul within everyone's heart. Very good advice. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Generally, it is understood that by merging into the existence of Brahman, the impersonal feature of the absolute truth, one becomes completely happy. The words Brahma Nirvana refer to connecting with the absolute truth, who is realized in three features: Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavan iti Satyate. One feels Brahma Sukha, spiritual happiness, by merging into the impersonal Brahman, because the Brahma Jyoti is the effulgence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yasya Prabha Prabhavato Jagananda Koti. Yasya Prabha, the impersonal Brahman, consists of the rays of Krishna's transcendental body. Therefore, whatever transcendental bliss one feels from merging in Brahman is due to contact with Krishna. Contact with Krishna is perfect Brahma Sukha when the mind is in touch with the impersonal Brahman. One becomes satisfied. But one must advance further to render service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For one's remaining merged in the Brahman effulgence is not always assured. As is said, Aruhya Kritcherena Parampadam Tata Patanti Adyo Nadrita Yusmat Angraya. One may merge in the Brahman feature of the Absolute Truth, but there's a chance that one may fall because of not being acquainted with Ahokshaja or Vasudeva, meaning Krishna. Of course, such Brahma Sukha undoubtedly eliminates material happiness. But when one advances through impersonal Brahman and localized Paramatma to approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead in relationship with Him as a servant, friend, parent, or conjugal lover, one's happiness becomes all pervading. Then one automatically feels transcendental bliss, just as one becomes happy seeing the shining of the moon. One acquires natural happiness upon seeing the moon. But when one sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one's transcendental happiness increases hundreds and thousands of times as soon as one is very intimately connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One surely becomes free from all material contamination. Ya Nivritish Tanu Vritam. This cessation of all material happiness is called nirvitri, nirvitri, nirvana. Srila Rupa Goswami says in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.1.38, Brahmandana Bhaved Esa Chet Par Arda Gunikrita Naiti Bhakti Sukham de Bod Dehe Paramanu Tulam Api. If Brahmanda, the bliss of merging in the Brahman effulgence, were multiplied 100 trillion times, it would still not equal even an atomic fragment of the ocean of transcendental bliss felt in devotional service. Wow, what a wonderful verse that is. It just shows the power and glory of being engaged in devotional service. Brahmabhuta Prasanatma, Naso Chaitanya Kamsati, Samaksare Subhutesu, Madbhaktin Labhate Param. One who is transcendently situated at once realizes the supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments nor desires to have anything. He is equally disposed toward all living entities. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto the Lord. Bhagavad Gita 18:54. If one advances further from Brahma Nirvana platform, one enters the stage of devotional service, Mad Bhaktim Labhate Param. The word Adhoksaja Lambam refers to keeping the mind always engaged in the absolute truth, who is beyond the mind and material speculation. Savai Mana Krishna Padaravinda Yo. This is the result of deity worship. By constantly engaging in the service of the Lord and thinking of his lotus feet, one is automatically freed from all material contamination. Thus, the word Rama Nirvana Sukham indicates that when one is in touch with the absolute truth, material sense gratification is completely nullified. Text 38. Is our time over yet?
Yeah, we are at time, Maharaj. We are at time.
We read one more verse. Text 38. Oh, my friend, sons of the Asura, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in his super soul feature, always exists within the cores of the hearts of all living entities. Indeed, he is the well-wisher and friend of all living entities, and there is no difficulty in worshiping him. Why then should people not engage in his devotional service? Why are they so addicted to unnecessarily producing artificial paraphernalia for sense gratification? That's a good question. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Because the personality of Godhead is supreme, no one is equal to him, and no one is greater than him. Nonetheless, if one is a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Lord is easily obtainable. The Lord is compared to the sky because the sky is vast, yet within the reach of all, not only of human beings, but even of the animals. The Supreme Lord, in his Paramatma feature, exists as the best well-wisher and friend. as confirmed in Vedas, Sayujo Sakayo. I like that. Sayujo Sakayo. The Lord, in his super soul feature, always stays in the heart along with the living entity. The Lord is so friendly to the living entity that he remains within the heart so that one can always contact him without difficulty. One can do this simply by devotion to Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Pada Sevanam. As soon as one hears of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna Katha, one immediately comes to the touch with the Lord. One immediately comes in touch with the Lord. A devotee immediately comes in touch with the Lord by any or all of the items of devotional service. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, Smaranam Pada Sevam, Straight Sevanam, Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Satyam Atmanivedam. Therefore, there is no difficulty in coming in contact with the Supreme Lord. Koti Prayasa. On the other hand, going to hell requires great endeavor. If one wants to go to hell by illicit sex, meat eating, gambling, and intoxication, he must acquire so many things. For illicit sex, he must arrange for money, for brothels, for meat eating. He must arrange for many slaughterhouses. For gambling, he must arrange for casinos and hotels. And for intoxication, he must open many breweries. Clearly, therefore, if one wants to go to hell, he must endeavor very much. But if he wants to return home, back to Godhead, there is no difficulty, but there is no difficult endeavor. To go back to Godhead, one may live alone anywhere, in any condition, and simply sit down, meditate upon the super soul, and chant and hear. Very important. Chant and hear about the Lord. Thus, there is no difficulty. There's none of this silent meditation. You chant and hear about the Lord. Thus, there's no difficulty in approaching the Lord. Adanta Govir Vishatam Tamishram. Because of inability to control the senses, one must go through great endeavor to go to hell. But if one is sensible, he can very easily obtain the favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead because the Lord is always with him by the simple method of Shravanam Kirtanam, hearing and chanting about Vishnu. The Lord is satisfied. Indeed, the Lord said, Patram Pushpam Phalam Trayam, Yomi Bhaktya Prayachata, Prayachati, Tadaham Bhakti Aparatam Asnami Prayatat Manaha. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, fruit, or water, I will accept it. Bhagavad Gita 9:26. One can meditate upon the Lord anywhere and everywhere. Plus, Lord Maharaj advised his friend, the sons of the demons, to take this path back home, back to Godhead, without difficulty. Hare Krishna, Hare
Krishna, 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 Hare
Hare
Ram,
Rama,
Hare
Rama
Ram.
Rama, Hare. Are we at the end of time?
Yes, Maharaj.
Yeah. Okay. Are there any questions or comments? We read many, many wonderful verses. Oh, nectar. Yeah, what I like is the statement. It says, Therefore, there is no difficulty in coming in contact with the Supreme Lord, Koti Prayasa. On the other hand, going to hell requires great endeavor. it's, it's very difficult to go to hell. It requires great endeavor, but there's no difficulty uh, coming in contact with the Supreme Lord. If one wants to go to hell by illicit sex, meat eating, gambling, and intoxication, he must acquire so many things. For illicit sex, he must arrange for money, for brothels, for meat eating. He must arrange for many slaughterhouses. For gambling, he must arrange for casinos and hotels. And for intoxication, he must open many breweries. Clearly, therefore, if one wants to go to hell, he must endeavor very much. But if he wants to return home and go back to Godhead, there is no difficult endeavor. To go back to Godhead, one may live alone, anywhere, in any condition, and simply sit down, meditate, and be happy. And meditate upon the super soul and chant and hear about the Lord. Thus, there is no difficulty in approaching the Lord. Adam to go appear Vishadam Tamishram. Because of inability to control the senses, one must go through great endeavor to go to hell. In other words, it's much easier to go back to the spiritual world. It's very hard to go to hell. But if one is sensible, he can very easily obtain the favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead because the Lord is always with him. By the simple method of Shravanam Kirtanam, hearing and chanting about Lord Vishnu, the Lord is satisfied. Indeed, the Lord says, Patram Pushpam Palam Tuyam Yome Bhaktya Prayachiti Tadaham Bhakti Paritam Asnami Paritat Manaha. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, fruit, or water, I will accept it. Bhagavad Gita 9:26. One can meditate upon the Lord anywhere and everywhere. Thus, Prahlad Maharaj advised his friend, the sons of the demons, to take this path back home, back to Godhead without difficulty. Because it is very easy, it's full of bliss and knowledge, and it is highly recommended by the acharyas. Chant Hare Krishna and be happy. Hare Okay, we'll stop right there, and our takeaway for today. To go back to Godhead, one may live alone anywhere, in any condition, and simply sit down, meditate upon the super soul, and chant and hear about the Lord. So there's no question of being silent. He chants and hears about the Lord in a place where there's no, let's say, nonsense going on. Thus, there's no difficulty in approaching the Lord. Adam Tego Vir Vishatam Tamishram. Because of inability to control the senses, one must go through great endeavor to go to hell. So it's easier to go to the spiritual world than to go to hell. It requires a lot more nonsensical activities to be eligible to go to hell. But if one is sensible, he can very easily obtain the favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead because the Lord is always with him by the simple method of Shravanam Kirtanam, chanting and hearing about Lord Vishnu. The Lord is satisfied. Indeed, the Lord says, Patram Pushpam Palam Toyam. Yome Bhaktya Prayachati, Tadaham Bhakti Paratam Asnami Prayatat Manaha. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, fruit or water, I will accept it. Bhagavad Gita 9:26. One can meditate upon the Lord anywhere and everywhere. Thus, Prahlad Maharaj advises his friends, the sons of the demons, to take this path back home, back to Godhead, without difficulty. Just chant Hare Krishna and be happy, and always engage in devotional service to the Lord without enviousness, and always aspire to love for love and devotion of the Lord. Then the Lord will protect you, and you will pass through all the different, let's say, difficulties in the material world without being in any way hurt. You will be able to, you become immune to nonsense and fully engaged by being fully engaged in devotional service. Okay, I think we'll stop right there. And did I read our quick takeaway already?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay, well, thank you very much, my dear devotee. Are there any questions? Are there any questions or comments? Okay, so our takeaway for today. To go back to Godhead, one may live alone anywhere, in any condition, and simply sit down, meditate upon the super soul, and chant and hear about the Lord. Thus, there is no difficulty in approaching the Lord. Adantadgubir Vishatam Tamishram. Because of inability to control the senses, one must go through great endeavor to go to hell. In other words, it's much more difficult to go to hell than to go back to the spiritual world. That you got to be really determined to go to hell. You have to engage in all kinds of sinful activities, which are horrible. But yet, most people go to hell because they cannot control their mind and senses. So, to go back to Godhead, one may live alone anywhere, in any condition, and simply sit down, meditate upon the super soul, and chant and hear about Krishna. Thus, there is no difficulty in approaching the Lord. Yeah, you just sit down and start chanting. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Hare Ram.
Rama, Hare Hare, and don't stop.
So, Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes,
Yeah. So, this sentence actually a little bit kind of a contradictory. Means, uh, is it for only yogis or the normal grahasthas and some other people also? Like
this
even
this is for devotees.
yeah, but we cannot just sit and chant and leave all our duties.
It's just for devotees. Doesn't matter who you are or what you are. If you sit down and chant the holy names of the Lord, that's why it says here, simply sit down, meditate upon the super soul, and chant and hear about the Lord. Thus, there is no difficulty in approaching the Lord. Adantagopir Vishatam Tamishram. Because of inability to control the senses, one must go through great endeavor to go to hell. But if one is sensible, he can very easily obtain the favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because the Lord is always with him by the simple method of Shravanam Kirtanam, hearing and chanting. about Vishnu, the Lord is satisfied. Indeed, the Lord says, Patram Pushpam Palam Priyam Yomi Bhaktya Prayochati Tadaham Bhakti Bharatam Asnami Prayatatmanaha. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, fruit, or water, I will accept it. Bhagavad Gita 9.26. One can mediate upon the Lord anywhere and everywhere. Thus, Prahlad Maharaj advised his friends, the sons of the demons, to take this path back home, back to Godhead, without difficulty. That's it. This is the special mercy in Kali Yuga. Very easily, you can go back to Godhead simply by chanting, dancing, feasting, and hearing about Krishna. There it is. Very simple. And also, Krishna says very adamantly, he says, if one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, fruit, or water, I will accept it. One can meditate upon the Lord anywhere and everywhere. Thus, Prahlad Maharaja advised his friend, the sons of the demons, to take the path back to home, back to Godhead, without difficulty. It can't get any better than that. What more can you ask for? Simply chant, dance, feast, and always hear about the Lord. You go back to Godhead. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you very much, my dear devotees. Now you know that no one is going to be forgotten or ignored if they simply chant Hare Krishna and have Krishna Prasadam and engage in devotional service. They will go back to Godhead. Guaranteed. Haribol. Thank you. Any questions or comments? Here it's very simple. It says, there is no difficulty in coming in contact with the Supreme Lord. Koti Prayasa. On the other hand, going to hell requires great endeavor. If one wants to go to hell by illicit sex, meat eating, gambling, and intoxication, he must acquire so many things. For illicit sex, he must arrange for money. For brothels, for meat eating, he must arrange for the many slaughterhouses. For gambling, he must arrange for casinos and hotels. And for intoxication, he must open many breweries. Clearly, therefore, if one wants to go to hell, he must endeavor very much. But if one wants to return home, back to Godhead, there is no difficult endeavor. To go back to Godhead, one may live alone anywhere, and anywhere, in any condition, and simply sit down, meditate upon the Supreme Soul, and chant and hear about Krishna. Thus, there's no difficulty in approaching the Lord. Can't get better than that. It is really hard to be a person who engages in sex and sinful activities. It's very hard. But to become a pure devotee is actually very easy. You chant, you dance, you feast, and you listen to bona fide devotees speaking the Shastras. It's all fun. You go to festivals, you chant, you dance, you feast. Yeah, so it's very easy to be Krishna conscious. very difficult to be a demon. To be a demon, you have to do so many bad things. To be a devotee, you do all good things. Obviously, you are much more happier by doing only good things than being a demon and doing bad things. Okay, thank you very much, my dear devotees. Don't be demons. Be devotees and chant, dance, and feast for the rest of your life and go back to Godhead to continue chanting, dancing, and feasting. Oh, glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. What would we do without Srila Prabhupada? Oh my God, we'd be lost. We'd be floating around in stool, not knowing anything about how to save ourselves from misery. Okay, thank you. And please chant Hare Krishna and be happy. And don't worry about anything because Krishna guarantees to protect his devotee. Konteya Pratijani Name Bhakta Pranashati. That's a guarantee that Krishna gives. That he will always protect his devotee. So if you become a devotee, Krishna will protect you and make everything easy for you to go back to God. Hare Krishna.
Correct.
Thank you very much, my dear devotee.
This guarantee gives a lot of confidence, Maharaj.
Yes, yes. It's not a phony guarantee. Gold standard guarantee. Okay, thank you very much, my dear devotees. Have a good day today. And try and remember at least one thing that you heard today.
One thing is, Maharaj, that no silent chanting.
Yeah, no silence. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yomi bhakti prayasti tadha bhakti paritam asami paritat maha. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, I will accept it. There it is. That's it. That's our takeaway for today.